who is also a programmer here at Faces.
So
nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, Edwin and Philip, this is Martin Were. I hope I'll get to meet you guys in person at some point. Just a quick background for us. How many developers do you guys have?
We have 3 developers.
Okay. Great. And they're all Java developers?
Yes, we all have skills in developing in Java and HTML, VB.NET, JavaScript, jQuery. Actually, between the 3 of us, we have skills developing in a number of languages.
Excellent. Okay. No, it was just good to just get some background. And I'll let. And do you want to give us a sense of just the background towards you, basically how we got to this meeting? Just in terms of what are your interests, what are you guys trying to do? That way we make even the demo relevant for what you guys are trying to do.
Well, your team at Ampath visited us, I think it was about a month ago, month and a half. And we shared what we are doing here with OpenMRS.
Yes.
And I think your team mentioned that you have this mUzima project you're working on, which is mobile-based. And we thought that might be useful for us to take a look at, because our thought is that maybe this could be a way to enable us gain better penetration of implementing EMRs, especially in some of the clinics that are remote areas in which we cannot easily deploy EMRs using actual physical hardware that is not mobile based. So based on what we see, maybe it's something we can pursue to see whether it can enable us to expand our EMR deployment, especially in areas that are remote. That's where our interest is.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, so just I'm sorry I couldn't also come to that meeting because I was engaged at the time. But no, so you met Kenny, you met JJ, and basically the larger team, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then JJ demoed some of the stuff he'd also done to you guys later on, right? Or at least you guys had another demo with JJ, right?
No, we were supposed to have a demo with JJ. We didn't get around to doing that. But what we had agreed was that we are going to come and visit Ampath. And in fact, we have a date in mind, sometimes mid of September, when you can come by. And that is the time when JJ is going to give us a demo of some of the things that we have discussed.
Okay. Okay. No, excellent. And I think it'll be a good relationship in a lot of ways. The sense obviously is that between you guys, us guys and iTech, we could actually potentially move a lot of stuff quite fast within Kenya if we are working collaboratively. And that, by the way, I'm the Chief Medical Information Officer for Ampath too. So, whether it's how we're dealing with the concept dictionary stuff, or where we're dealing with technology, or a shared point of care system, there are so many kind of potential synergies that we all could potentially take advantage of.
Agreed. And in fact, even as we shared with your team, even as we shared with your team, we are already actually really collaborating with iTech. In fact, some of the modules that iTech have that is the Kenya EMR that's currently being deployed have been developed by our Faces team. So we're already working closely with iTech, and we are looking forward to working with you guys as well, because we feel that this will be a mutually beneficial relationship for all of us.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna let us jump then into the cause for this meeting, just because we have a lot of technical people. We can all obviously talk about the other organizational related stuff, but Do you, maybe we should just give a little bit of a background in terms of what we're trying to do with mUzima. As so Win is going to jump you guys into the demo, but the background for mUzima is this. You know, have you guys ever used Open Data Kit in your setting?
Yes, we've used this extensively.
And are you talking about ODK Collect or ODK Collect and ODK Clinic? Which version?
ODK Collect.
Okay, so you guys have used ODK Collect. And so, you know, within AMPAT, we actually started using ODK Collect for our home-based counseling and testing program. And then we ended up, and we had to modify that a little bit to suit our purposes because we were also collecting both individual encounter information and household information. And you know, household is handled a little bit differently from individual encounter information. Okay? And then some of our other programs ended up wanting to also be able to retrieve data on the device. Because right now ODK Collect is primarily for collecting data, but you don't get historical data. And so we had to use ODK Collect, ODK Clinic version 1.0 in some form, but you know that there are obviously different apps. Collect and Clinic are kind of separate. And so, you know, we ended up doing some development where we connected ODK Clinic and ODK Collect as version 1.0. That was actually used by our chronic disease care program. And a version of it was modified for our maternal newborn child health program. And it's the same version that Millennium Villages project ended up using in Ethiopia, okay? And then Yao came and did his PhD with us, okay? And he ended up creating ODK Clinic version 2.0, okay? And that primarily took advantage of the decision support stuff that we are doing at AMPAT, which I don't know if anybody has ever showed to you. But it took advantage of the decision support stuff where we have alerts and reminders and things like that done as part of our AMRS implementation, but now rolling that out into mobile devices. Okay? So basically, at AMPAT, we ended up having pretty much 3 versions of ODK. So you have ODK Collect by itself with a module that connects it to OpenMRS, ODK Collect/Clinic version, which has a different module that connects to OpenMRS, and another ODK Clinic version 2.0, which connects again to with a separate module to OpenMRS. And if you looked under the hood from a technical standpoint, the code wasn't very robust for a lot of these systems, and the fact that Yao and Carl obviously ended up starting Nafundi meant that the ODK community actually wasn't getting as much support in terms of enhancements as we would have wanted. So whereas the University of Washington folks wanted to keep working on ODK Collect, they didn't want to keep working much on ODK Clinic, either version 1 or version 2.0. And given that the code was not very robust, we decided, well, why don't we come up with a system that, one, is looking at the way OpenMRS is going in terms of how external systems should interact with it. And so basically taking advantage of REST API instead of using kind of individual modules. And also have a system that can seamlessly integrate data collection and data retrieval, allow us to do additional things like teleconsultation or even do other things like decision support as part of the same application. Okay? With pretty much robust kind of registration mechanisms and things like that. And so, and then the other thing we were thinking about is just how technology is evolving. And so at some point thinking about having a core of the application that can eventually be used cross-platform. So instead of just having an Android core, being able to have something that eventually you could port into a cross-platform mechanism, either using Cordova or something to that effect. Okay, and so that's kind of the impetus of us developing this application. So we've spent a lot of time developing it, mostly with grant resources that I've gotten myself. Okay, but we have public license for this, which is very similar to OpenMRS, and it's Mozilla Public License version 2.0, which is the same license that OpenMRS has. Okay. It has a health disclaimer, obviously, and then we also have an additional disclaimer. They're just saying if somebody is going to make a profit out of this, they need to talk to the team. Okay. Right. Because what we don't want is, for example, you guys put in a lot of developer time, we put in a lot of we put in a lot of resources, and then a random organization goes in and makes a lot of money but not contributing back to improve the application itself, Right. So if there are organizations that are really actually putting in personnel effort to develop the application, then they should use the application for free. But as you guys know, we have a whole bunch of organizations out there that make a lot of money from very hard work from other groups, but they don't contribute back. So we just want to make sure that every organization that's profiteering from the open source application is contribute back to improving the application itself. Right. Okay. But for a group like Faces, if we all say we are working as a collaborative, then it's basically you guys just being part of the team that enhances things, or the things that you enhance that are relevant to you guys also get shared back to the core repository, because we are all a community trying to develop an application that serves clinical settings like ours. Right. Am I making sense? Do you guys have any questions around the non-technical things that I'm talking about before you guys go into the technical pieces?
No, actually, you're actually making perfect sense. And in our view, and I'm sure I represent FACE when I say this, is that if this is something that we see can be useful to us, we'll be very happy to contribute back by providing programmer time to help in the development of this system, because we, based on the fact that we've spent a lot of time also developing in OpenMRS, and we have technical expertise in-house to do mobile development, I think we can be in a position to provide, contribute from a technical perspective in the development of mUzima, and we'll be very happy to do that.
Yes, I think that will be just great, and for me, it will be very exciting, especially to see that our two teams actually are working together and taking ownership of something that even as groups working in Kenya, we can tell the world, hey, this is the way things are going. By the way, most of you, maybe some of you guys know that I'm actually a registry faculty. So, we've already had discussions with OpenMRS in terms of making this the reference mobile application for OpenMRS. So, in the coming weeks, chances are we're going to have a much larger community exposed to this. But given that I'm a little bit cautious, I want to make sure that we have at least a good version working, implemented and tested within AMPAT before we kind of start telling the community there's something here for you to use, or there's something here for you to add to. Okay?
Correct.
So I'll probably let Win go ahead with the demo. I'll keep quiet, but I'm so excited to be talking to you guys for sure.
Thank you.
Hi guys. So this is the demo. I think someone probably want to talk over the demo. You want to?
No, go ahead, because you're going to be handling the demo.
So we have this application, and so this is the application that we have. Let me just close it first. So the first thing that we have when you start the application for the first time is the disclaimer. And then when you scroll, you see the agree. If you disagree, then it's just gonna close the application. So And then once you agree, you'll be taken to the login screen. On first run, it will ask for the URL for your OpenMRS. So this is your standard OpenMRS URL, and then the username and password. So, and then you will be taken to the wizard to set up your application.
Yeah. So, so this is important in terms of downloading cohorts. So let us just give you a background about what we mean by that. So you can imagine, even at Faces, you have many clinics, right? And the clinics offer many types of services, okay? And so the way we design the system is that in OpenMRS, you can pretty much define which cohorts go to which providers, okay? And so you can define cohorts just simply by saying, it's a clinic-based cohort, it could be a provider-based cohort, or it could be even a cohort meeting particular criteria. Let's say people who've missed to come to clinic when they are referred from a home visit, okay? And so the first time your providers start the application, they could actually pick which cohort they want, patient information to be downloaded for. Most of our settings, actually, it's the admins who are going to be setting up the devices for the providers. But, the list of cohort there is basically something you've defined as a team in terms of what patient data you want downloaded onto the device. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So the second step is where you can select 1 to n forms that you want to download. You can,
yeah. So again, just to add to that, so different clinics offer different types of services. In the community, they only fill particular forms. So when you're setting them up, you should just be able to determine which forms those individuals will be filling as part of their visit. Okay. Maybe we should talk to them about the types of forms we have and the process for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So inside the form, you will have question. The application will parse the question that asks in the form and then generate this list of concepts. Because when we design it, we were thinking, say for example, if you collect form A, which has question on weight or height, then you potentially would want to see the chronological value for that particular observation. So you probably want to see weight over time, height over time, and so on. So the application will parse this question and give you this list of concepts. So this concept will be used to decide which observation gets downloaded into the form. So we're downloading quite a number of observation now because we have a bunch of concepts here. So any addition to that?
So are you, let me ask a question about that. Are you stating that the forms are being, when you're downloading, when you're creating the forms on the device, these forms are being generically generated? I mean, what I mean by that is that different providers can have different concepts, but for the same form, depending on what they are picking out of this list.
Yeah. So let's clarify back. Actually, wasn't I didn't listen to everything you said, unfortunately. But so the idea of forms is this: it's almost the same as the way you have forms in the OpenMRS repository, right?
Right.
So you have multiple types of forms that can be used by different types of providers, and each organization will decide which types of forms they have. In OpenMRS right now, you have You can have obviously infopath forms, you can have HTML forms, and you can have X forms as the primary ones, okay?
Yeah.
And some people create X forms that eventually become ODK, kind of compliant forms. So we are using the same mechanism for the forms that we create. So we can usually call them mUzima forms, okay? mUzima forms are primarily HTML5 forms, okay? Because we're going towards an HTML5 framework for doing things with JSON kind of structure and payload, okay? And so, right now, a lot of the HTML5 forms are just created natively from scratch. Later on today, we're going to be talking with our University of Bergen colleagues to get a form designer and renderer mechanism, potentially because they've developed something good. These are the same guys who did OpenX data, but now they have a new HTML5-based form development thing, which can really make our form development easier. Okay. And so, but the other thing we spent a lot of time on with mUzima was seeing if we could convert ODK forms and even Java Rosa compliant forms into mUzima forms, okay? And basically, we use a tool called Enketo, which some of you guys might have heard of. I don't know if you know Matt Berg. He used to work for Millennium Villages Project and now has started his own team in Nairobi. And they recently posted kind of something on the NHealth page. Anyway, so Matt Berg has this tool that converts Java Rosa forms into HTML5 forms. It's called Enketo. And we try to use that to convert kind of ODK forms. We are able to, but the forms have obviously a lot of baggage in addition from the conversion. And the payload is slow to save, and so we just decided, obviously if a group really wants to just simply convert their ODK forms, they can still do it within mUzima, but chances are it's going to just be very, very slow. And so a lot of what we're asking is, that you'll see the difference between like an HTML5 form that's created natively compared to an HTML5 form converted from ODK through Enketo into kind of mUzima HTML5 forms. Okay.
Right.
So, but you can imagine, if you are thinking about work streams or where one group could come in and help out, is to help with the kind of enhancement of the form development mechanism, so that in the future, if you guys have to develop a form or we have to develop a form, it's much faster. So that's just an example of a space that we can all work on moving forward. But so ideally now, when where we are in this application, where in terms of the demo, so Win is showing you you've downloaded, you've decided these are the cohorts I want, and then we're asking you for which forms do you want to fill for the individuals, which forms do you want on your device. Those forms are already in the OpenMRS repository that you have, and so we need to just show you the list of the forms, and then you pick the forms which you want downloaded on the device. Okay. Now, when those forms get downloaded, okay, you could easily just download the form, fill them, and send them back, okay? But what we have done is saying, oftentimes, we also want to download particular information from patients' historical data, okay? And chances are, if I'm asking you to fill a form and you're collecting particular information, it's the same type of information that you might want retrieved back on your device, okay? And so we've created a mechanism to pass the question-answer concepts that usually come with the forms that you have, primarily to allow us to download data for those concepts, okay? I don't know if you guys have looked at ODK version 1.0, ODK Clinic, okay? Remember, in ODK Clinic 1.0, on the server side, they ask you, please select the concept for which you want the data downloaded, okay? And so you do the same thing, and then that's what gets downloaded onto your device. What we've done in mUzima is we've actually started to automate that process for you based on the types of forms that you'll be filling, but you can also include additional concepts as part of setting up your devices if they're not included in the forms that you're interested in. Okay, so that's the rationale for passing the codes automatically. I don't know if I'm making sense there.
You're making perfect sense.
Okay, so I'll hand it back to him.
So when Martin was talking, I initiated the download process. So it was downloading, like, I don't know, a few thousand observation and a few hundred encounters.
Yeah. So we have to walk them through specifically the different elements that get downloaded. So patients, just kind of walk through.
So on the first step, when you pick the cohort, the system, the application will download the demographic information, and this demographic is made to be pretty similar to what we have in OpenMRS. So you will have multiple patient names if the patient have multiple names, and we will also download the multiple identifier for the patient into the device itself. So if the rationale behind this is, if in the case that you want to search the patient by a known identifier or a known name, you will get a match because we have all the identifiers, all the name available in the device. And then on the second step, after we parse the concepts, we match this concept with the patient to correctly download the encounter and observation information for that patient. Because in the patient page that you will see in a few after this, we have grouping for the observation by encounter and by concept. So this one you can also download the barcode scanner application if it's not available on your device. In case you want to utilize the phone to read barcode for registration, for example, or we're planning to use searching using barcode in the future. So
okay, so let me ask a question at this point. Yeah. So when you start the application, there's a process of downloading the forms, concepts, etc., etc. Does that process happen every single time you log into the application?
No, this is the wizard only happened once. On the subsequent download, the application will send last synchronization date, so you only get like new data after that particular date.
Okay. Yeah. So just to clarify, right now we are starting you guys from scratch, like you're downloading the application the first time. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, I think it will be worthwhile for us to talk about what Win is kind of stating here about the delta. Okay. Because things change over time. And given the way we have limitations in terms of how much data we download, so we've spent a lot of time also thinking about just, if things change, that's the information we want to re-download, and not, cleaning everything up and then having to re-download everything all over again. So we can talk to you guys about that at some point.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
But we're just, initial installation here.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can press skip. And then this is the landing page. And if you go to cohort, you can see this is the cohort that we download, and then all will list out all the cohort that you have in the server. So everything is offline by now. So if you don't have internet connection, it will be perfectly fine.
So basically, what we've just done, guys, is installed mUzima for the first time. Okay, decided which client cohort we want, decided which forms we want to use on the device, and also set ourselves up to be able to download observations, which are relevant back to the provider who will be using it. Okay, and so that's it. Whatever the landing page Win is showing you is the application is done installing. So what you have right now is an application that's ready to use. Initial installation, obviously, you need to be connected because you are really pinging your OpenMRS server. But once the installation is done, you can use it offline.
So let me ask another question here about what I'm seeing on the cohorts. It says cohorts 1 synced 5 total. So the way I'm seeing that, and I could be mistaken, is that it means that when you're logged in the first time, the system identified that there are 5 defined cohorts on the OpenMRS server, but you selected one and you synced the information on only one. But this 5 that is identifying here is what the application saw on the OpenMRS server. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it exactly correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in the future, if you wanted to download another cohort, it's all in the all. If you see synced and all, we still kind of give you that option. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. And then so we have cohort, clients, and form. Form is pretty similar, so all will list out all the forms that you have in the server. The star is just saying, oh, this template is available on the device. So if you want downloaded, we'll list out all the form that you already download in the wizard.
When you say all the forms, are you talking about, because you can have different types of forms on OpenMRS. You have info path, HTML, HTML forms, etc., etc. Are you saying it shows all the forms irrespective of the type, or it shows all the forms of a certain specific type?
So the form here is the mUzima form only.
Right. So basically, it's the forms that are compliant for use with the application, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so if it was ODK, it would have been ODK forms. If you're you have InfoPath set up on your PC, then it's InfoPath. But in this case, it's really the forms that can be used.
Used on the. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And again, we are not just to save data. What we are showing you here is just the form. What do you call it? The form description.
The form description and only the header of the form.
Yeah.
Form. Okay. Makes sense.
You are not getting to download all the forms first and then you pick. We're only showing you the head, and then what gets downloaded is what you pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you see here is just the form name and the form description and tagging information. So we use this tag information to categorize form. So if you don't like any particular, you don't want to see any particular categorization, you can just uncheck it, and then it will be gone from your list. In this case, I just want to see the CDM form, and it will list out only CDM form tag with CDM.
Okay.
And then going to the client side, this one will list out all your available patient, and then we have a searching mechanism. As you type, it will try to narrow down the list. We're using identifier and name to search it.
Right.
It can narrow down the list pretty quickly.
Nice.
If you go to the, this is our simple patient dashboard. We have this observation and forms and potentially more plugin basically that we will develop in the future. If you go to the observation, you can see the chronological list observation for that patient. This one is grouped by concept. You can scroll it and then see whatever value for that patient. And then we also have grouping by encounter. This one will display the observation by the encounter. Any questions? Any more explanation?
No, No, that's pretty clear. It's actually quite it's actually quite good.
Yes, and then if you go to the forms, we have 3 tabs. Like recommended is basically what form we have, and then incomplete, and then complete. To start filling a form, obviously you can just click the form, and then it will bring up the form for filling. And then as you type, you can start filling the form. And then we have what we call draft. This one will save your form as incomplete, for example. You don't have time to complete the form, and then it will just persist some of the data that you filled earlier. So we go back, and then we'll see your what was the last thing you fill in the form. And then I guess we can continue filling one form. So the form is HTML based, and it's pretty straightforward to develop this form.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously the complexity of development depends on the size and complexity of the form, and whether you have kind of user-defined functions that might require a whole bunch of JavaScript. I personally feel that the form development piece, would greatly benefit from a form designer. And as I said again, that's the meeting that we're going to be having at 11.
Yeah.
Right. I had a question about right now, if you look at the new version of OpenMRS, I think previously they used to display historical clinical information in form of encounters, but these days they have changed that grouping into visits. So if a patient comes into a clinic and comes for a visit, you may end up filling multiple forms based on that clinic. You go for TB screening, you go maybe for cancer screening as well, HIV care and treatment, blah, blah, blah. So how do you, is that something that has been, how would you display that with mUzima? It'll be just displayed still as in that grouping of concepts and observations, or is that something that would need to be kind of like implemented in this platform? I don't know if my question is clear.
The question makes sense to some degree, okay? And I'm going to try to take a stab at it, okay? So a couple of things you have to think about. One, because you're dealing with a mobile platform, you've got to be sensitive in terms of the amount of data you're downloading and uploading, okay?
Agreed.
And so obviously if you have, very good Wi-Fi type of setup, a lot of space to store the data, it shouldn't be an issue, right? But if you're in the field, I think downloading all information about that exists in a patient central repository is just not very practical, right?
Agreed.
So we made that decision that we're going to allow you to obviously select the concepts for which you want the data to be downloaded on the device. So suppose when they go to the community, they don't collect HIV testing data, but you have that as part of the central repository. When you're starting to add a concept, you're searching against the concept dictionary that you have within OpenMRS. You're not searching against the concept dictionary. It's just, the concepts within the forms you are interested in. Am I making sense? And so pretty much any concept for which you have observations within your OpenMRS implementation, you could potentially download that data into mUzima, whether you're filling a form with that concept or not. Okay? Now, if you absolutely wanted another form for which you're not filling and you wanted all that information to be downloaded, no, a shortcut approach would just be to say, first of all, that form will have to be a mUzima form, but a shortcut approach would be to say, no, I want to fill this, no, I want to download this form, but really you're downloading it to just have the concepts passed, so that when the concepts are passed, you can get that information, okay? And again, we show you the ability to display observations based on concepts, but also observations based on encounter. And, you know, if you have a full encounter based on basically encounter type or encounter ID, or form ID, and the same date, we'll consider that an encounter and we'll display it that way. I think we also discussed, you know, non-encounter based observations and how those will be displayed. And when I can't remember how we display non-encounter based observation and encounter. Remember? Yeah. But eventually, remember, this is not even version 1 of the application, okay? So when I say that, you know, a lot of these things could be modified and improved over time, is because different users will have different requirements. And, you know, we all have to chip in to kind of improve it in a way that meets individual and also collective goals. Okay? So at least we have a version that can allow you to add concepts and view them, regardless of whether you're filling them as part of forms. And also we have a mechanism to display them grouped as encounters as best as we can, recognizing that that might potentially also need some improvement over time.
Okay, so is mUzima currently in use anywhere in any of your, is it currently in use at AMPATH or is still in development phase?
We're in development phase, but we're going to be rolling it out this week most likely.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and these are the type of questions that are making us not roll it out to the wider community. Yeah. But also we recognize that we can't do everything all at once. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
And so different teams will pick different you know, versions of it. In fact, if I look at what we have in mUzima right now compared to what ODK Clinic 1.0 has, I feel like we've done everything that ODK Clinic 1.0 does and more. Okay, but that, you know, recognizes that there's still a lot of work to do. In fact, for example, you could say, well, you know, why can't I just define all these things on the server side instead of having them defined on the device, right? Or why don't I define kind of even, you know, when I set up a provider and saying they're going to use mUzima, I could define all the forms and all that stuff on the server side, even as a group of providers, and be done with it. So I could think of 100 different things we could add to the application, but that's why you have roadmaps in applications. And in our case, we are doing it to meet particular needs that would most likely serve most of the people for version 1, especially compared with what we are already using in the first.
Absolutely.
Okay, do you want to continue?
Yeah, so earlier I finished filling one form. So once you have a complete form, you can go to send out this completed form to the server. You can go to the complete tab, and then you can press the upload button, and then this one should send this form structure to the server for processing. So we delete the form once you successfully upload it to the server.
We delete the observations. We don't delete the form.
Oh, we delete the form data.
Yeah. So the payload gets deleted. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is the other judgment call, right? Do you keep the data on the device, or do you send the data on the server and then only download changes back onto the device? Okay.
Good question.
yeah, getting back to your initial, if I have a client who's being seen at multiple places and they're potentially taking the same types of observations, let's say weight. So if I go to a child's home and I do their weight, and then I come back to the clinic and I do their weight, now I personally wanna know what the collective data is. So for this version, we decided that once you submit the data, it gets the payload itself, meaning the raw JSON, gets deleted from the device, and you can re-download individual observations. As part of a future version, you could imagine giving different users different options as part of setup to say, my implementation, I want to keep the data, okay, and handle it this way. But at least for version 1, we had to settle on a particular approach that we thought made the most sense.
Yeah. In addition to that, we also parse the payload and then generate the observation locally, so you can.
Yeah. So, guys, I think that's actually an important point. Could you just explain to them the rationale for that?
Yeah. Sometime when you're in the field, you won't get internet connection for quite a while, and in the case you want to collect more data for the particular patient, you might want to see like what data did I enter in my previous encounter with this patient. So so once you enter you mark the form as complete, we will parse this form data and then create the encounter and observation for you. So this is the example of the generated encounter and observation. You can see it's pretty similar to what we have.
Okay. And you can imagine. By the way, so the other thing that we didn't show you is that we do the same thing for registration, right? So you've registered somebody in the field, but you're not sure whether they exist in the central server or not, okay?
Yeah.
And so you need to do some reconciliation on the central server side to make sure that you're not creating duplicates, okay? And occasionally you get into a gray zone where you're not 100% sure on the server side. And so sometimes some of that stuff needs human review, okay? And some organizations take longer than others to actually resolve those things. So essentially you have a registration on the mobile device that's kind of hanging on the server side, but that doesn't mean you can't continue doing your work on the mobile device, right?
Okay.
And so we allow a mechanism to both pass the registration information on the mobile device and the encounter information on the mobile device so that you can see what you've collected at any time. And then once all that data is reconciled on the server side, meaning we've created a new client or we've matched any duplicates, all that notification comes back to the mobile device saying, this client, this is their final ID, and you can now kind of get rid of the past, kind of temporary data that you have on the device. Okay? So that was a little bit of work to just get that mechanism, but you guys work in the same setting that you work in, and if you're in an online state for a while, you'll need some of those functionalities.
Right.
Yeah.
So the registration, to do the registration, because we already so we have, for the form, we have the notion that what we call a form, registration form is form specifically tagged with registration. So if to register a patient, you go to this search and then press the register a patient. So this will bring up if you only have one registration form, it will just bring that registration form up, and then you can start filling this registration form. But if you have multiple, when you press this one, you will be given a list, like which registration form you want to use to register a particular patient. So it opens up opportunity to, for example, you have like a very customized registration form or just a simple registration form. in your implementation.
Okay.
Yeah. And once this will also get parsed. So, for example, if we create a new registration, if we fill a registration form, it will create a temporary patient in the device.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Any more comment?
Did they mute?
Yeah. Well, are you guys there?
Yes, we're here. I think you guys muted.
Yeah, no, yeah, we went on mute because he needed to charge his computer or something.
Okay.
And so he was just telling us that. Do you have any questions? So this is the core part of mUzima. We can tell you other pieces that we have going at the same time. But do you have any questions about, again, remember, this is actually version what, 0.9 we said? 0.9. Yeah. So this is version 0.9. We're going to be deploying it at AMPAT. And so when we go to version 1.0, we want basically obviously a stable release. Okay?
Yeah.
And so and we've tested it and tested it and tested it and tested it. So, we are pretty optimistic that it's going to work fine. But again, we don't want to open it up if it has bugs and things like that, and it will just give us more distractions than anything. But yeah.
So where in what area are you going to initially test the use of this application?
So it's going to be AMPAT, right? So we're going to use it for our oncology program. We're going to use it for our home-based and counseling and testing program.
Okay.
And we're using it for our chronic disease program.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, AMPAT is moving all its mobile implementations to mUzima.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are moving away from ODK within the next few weeks.
Okay. So let me ask a question about that part you've just entered for the ID, unique ID.
Yes.
Is that going to be auto-generated, or is that something you're going to have to key in manually and then determine what type of number it is?
It's centrally generated.
Well, so right now we have a registration form that has that meets the needs for AMPAT.
Okay.
And yeah, right now this is coded as part of that registration form. Okay. Now, you can have different types of registration forms. When you install your application, you have to choose the registration form that you want. Okay. And so different organizations will have different demographics or different things that they want in their registration forms, including IDs. Now, in the future, you could see a place where, as part of setting up the registration form, you can say, well, look at all the IDs I have set up in my AMRS implementation, and have those be the IDs that go into the registration form for my application, right? So, yeah, but you can simply take what we have as kind of the template registration form and modify it for your purposes in the current version. Is that a correct statement, Win?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had a question on how the cohorts will be updated. How do we keep on updating our cohorts?
What do you?
So I think basically one they're asking, is it a static cohort or a dynamic cohort first of all? But also I think it's an appropriate time to touch on data. Okay.
Yeah, I think before there's a there's a plan to use the reporting module. So you generate the cohort definition and then use this cohort definition, get the actual cohort to the device. But I think for now we're using static cohort generated in OpenMRS because we need to keep track of what changes in that cohort. So using the cohort definition, you cannot really tell who was the last time inside that cohort. So it's pretty tricky to keep track of patient inside the cohort definition. So for now, we're using just static cohort. In the future, we're thinking to generate like a module to allow us to update this the static cohort inside OpenMRS. Yeah, to keep adding, like if there's a new patient that needs to be added to the cohort because of the criteria match, and we can add to this cohort. I hope that.
So if I get you right, what you're saying is that at the initial time, if I pull in a cohort and it has, say, 10 patients, and over the next 2 days you find that an additional 5 patients have been added to the cohort, then with this currently the system, there's no way to add those automatically. Like maybe if I do a sync, will it add the five new patients to the cohort, or currently the system doesn't do that?
Yes, if the thing is, I think in OpenMRS there is no easy way to edit the cohort itself. But once the cohort is updated, for example, today you have 10 patients in the cohort, and then you add 5 more patients inside this cohort. The next time you sync using the device, you will get just 5 patients downloaded to the device.
Right.
But
okay.
The 5 additional patients.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask: are we using? There are two ways of. You have the kind of cohort, and then you have the, what is it called? Definition? No. There are 2 ways of creating a cohort, like a dynamic cohort. It's in OpenMRS, right? No. Well, like there are 2 types of cohorts. There's a static cohort and there's a dynamic cohort. Yeah. And so you're saying you can't use that?
We don't want to use that because
the
reason we don't want to use the dynamic for now is that let's say the original list is 10 patients, but then maybe 2 patients actually did not have the new data that make them to fall off from the cohort definitions. And then it will keep like a false impression to the provider thinking that, hey, I'm missing 2 patients from my original 10 patient list. So what we plan for now is that we just keep on the static cohorts for now. And then for the next version, we're going to continue to add new patients who meet the same criteria. But for those patients who actually fall off from the definitions, we still keep on the original list. That's why we chose to use the static with continuous, like adding delta new patients to the list.
Yeah, and for me in the future, I can imagine having a setup which gives organizations the option. Do you want it to be a static cohort, or where you have to actually just run it manually to redo, or do you want it to be a dynamic cohort, right?
Yeah, the initial design, we have this functionality inside the code itself. So we have a mechanism for what we call mUzima API to download patient from reporting. So you can create your definition in the using reporting. You create the cohort definition in the server, and then mUzima API can download this list of cohort definition, and you can get the actual patient out of it. But during the design phase, we didn't continue on this side of thing. So we just follow the static cohort for now because, just like Ada mentioned, it's tricky to keep track of patient coming in and out from the cohort definition.
I think it's not a good approach as well to confuse the providers. Maybe the provider say that, hey, I really want to follow up on patient A that who was on my list last week, but now why is no longer there? It's because I seem to suffer somehow certain criteria fall off and then not meeting the criteria for the poor definition.
All right, right.
Yeah, so we have a session timeout as well.
Yeah.
So after a while, your application will log you out. So this is the login screen for the subsequent run. So you won't see the URL anymore. So you just enter your username and password.
Okay, that brings me to have another question. What if you want to, because initially when you logged into a OpenMRS server, right? So what if you have multiple servers? Okay, for us, we have a central server where data from different, our maybe 4 or 5 different servers, all our implementations, the data syncs into a central server. So in my mind, if what you have this mUzima clinic, we would direct it to the central server where all the data is found. But if you didn't have that kind of architecture where we have a central server and you want to log into a different OpenMRS server, how do you do that?
So currently inside the mUzima API, we have something to differentiate the object itself. So there's a plan. I mean, in the initial design, I put the URL to differentiate. So this particular data is coming from this server, but right now we don't use that because it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And confusion also, because where do we sync this particular information? There, in the future, we definitely can use that approach because the design is there. But for now, what we have is if you change your server, it will reset the data itself.
Oh, I see. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you don't want to get into a situation where you're mixing data from multiple servers. I mean, it's just insanity.
It's going to be really complicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let me. So what happens in a scenario where I have a device? I'm going to use it in a particular geographical location that is being served by server A. I want to go and to another geographical area that is being served by server B. All I have to do is just change the URL and just refresh the data for it to give me a new set of patients that are in that specific geographical area. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Or will I have to use a different device because this has been fixed?
Once you change the URL, it's gonna basically drop the previous data, reset everything, and then you will need to go to the wizard again to set up the application within your server.
Okay, makes sense.
But you can imagine again, if that's a feature that you guys are very, very interested in, you could kind of work to enhance mUzima where you can allow almost partitioned kind of implementations using different URLs so that you don't lose the data from the original. So again, there's so many potential features that could be added on based on what different groups want, and and at the end of the day, it's just, can we all collectively get ourselves to a place that we have applications that meet our collective needs? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Did you guys have any other questions?
I don't think we have any more questions at this point, but I think this is something that's very, very exciting. Let me say that immediately. And from our standpoint, I think it has a lot of potential, especially because FACES, we support 142 clinics, and of these 142, only 18 have EMR systems implemented. So you can imagine that if we want to access some of these clinics using a mobile solution, this looks very, very exciting and could be a potential solution for us. So I think when we come and visit you guys sometime in September, I think we'll probably maybe make time to revisit this. You guys, by that time, you will have tested it out. Like you're saying, you might start that this week. So once you test that thing out and you get an experience in the field, you'll probably have discovered new things that maybe we can share that at that point, and we'll most likely have more questions based on that, because right now we'll give feedback to our guys here what we've seen, and if they have any other questions, we'll be happy to share that once we come out to your location.
Sounds great, and I'll hopefully be here at the time. I think early September I'm going to be here, and we can get start conversation. Just to give you a sense of our other work streams in terms of things we're working on right now. So, at 11 we're going to be talking about the forms development part. We have a teleconsultation piece, which is going to be maybe version 1.1. So it's been developed. I don't know if you have a version of teleconsultation that you could show them. So we have basically a mobile teleconsultation piece. It's basically a store and forward teleconsultation mechanism. So if they're in the field, they see something and they want to send it to the consultant at a central clinic. So that has been developed. I don't know if you want to. I mean, it's really just a form that allows you to capture media, add captions. Say I want to consult this person, ask you a question, and send it to the central server. And then once they've we have an interface for them in the central server to kind of play around with it and make their recommendations, and then that comes back to you if you're in the field. Okay?
Okay, nice.
That's been pretty well developed and tested, but we want to start with whatever we just showed you, and then maybe in about a month after that, we're going to do the teleconsultation piece. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, the other piece that's currently being also actively worked on is a media management piece, where people can download particular training media on the device, and basically, you can have your providers be showing, the media to suppose you want them to train people on, let's say, how to comply with taking the HIV medications. Instead of having to rely on them to kind of give the same message consistently, you can just have a video, let's say in Luo or in Luya, that they can just play for the client and you're done with it. So that's a work stream that's actually actively being pursued right now. And it's something that I think we should have in the next month or two. Okay?
Okay.
And then
sounds good.
Yeah, the final piece, which is kind of separate from core mUzima, is a device management and security application. Okay? Because obviously, all of us know that that's one of the bigger considerations that we have to do. So that's a little bit separate from core mUzima. It's a completely separate application that will come up. That we'd be happy to have a discussion with you guys about how to move that work forward or how to share some of that stuff. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, you can imagine that if you're going to be in all the other 100 facilities and go in the community, you want to know who has what device when. And also, you can remotely lock, wipe out the device, detect SIM changes, potentially even implement GPS blocking type of thing. So we've also worked on that work stream. Okay.
That's a very good point about tracking devices and the security. That's going to be important.
Yeah. And so, but again, you guys are developers, so you recognize just how much work goes into this.
Absolutely.
So, and we don't have a big team, and so the more people can have on board to kind of help if they're going to be using the application, it's going to be just absolutely wonderful.
I mean, for us, like I said earlier, I mean, we are definitely very interested in participating in the development of this, because we see a need, or rather, we see this as a potential solution for us, especially to deploy EMRs. It's definitely our vision that we want to have as many of our sites having EMR, as many as possible in the shortest time possible, and this is obviously a possible solution for that. So we are most definitely interested, and we will be very happy to provide, to contribute some of our time and expertise to help in the development of this application.
No, that's great. Excellent. Did you guys have any other questions or comments?
No, I think we are good for today. Just like what we're suggesting on our chat here is that we'll be happy to test the beta version that you have, and that will allow us to form a basis of more questions that we may have prior to us visiting your location. And we could also think about ideas that could, when you do that, we can come up with, think about ideas that could, maybe help with some of the things that we're trying to achieve. So we look forward to trying the beta version here locally and see how that works, and just get a feel of it.
Excellent. Well, thanks, guys. We are 15, 16 minutes past our scheduled time.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go on.
Thank you very much for taking time to show us this solution. We really appreciate that, and we look forward to meeting with you guys. I'm going to send an email on a proposed date. I think we came to an agreement last week when we met here which date we can come out with, and if that works with you, we'll be very happy to come out and visit you guys and see how we can move this process forward.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.